Piano teachers, what is constant energy flow and how we apply it with our students, and as a technique and as a feeling. I'm gonna first start with our hands. I'm gonna ask my student, we already have taught our beginners how to place their fingers, playing with their fingertips, these little pillows here, the position of the wrists, not to be too low or too high, just to have, let's say, our blood, our river is flowing, and it has to have as much as normal of a flow onto the fingers. The energy has to flow. So if our wrists are too low, we're creating pressure, or too high, again, we're creating pressure. So when they already have established on how to keep their elbows, some very basic things about their movements of the hands, I speak about this constant energy flow. Again, quite early in the lessons, with piano beginners. And I ask them to play, let's say, the first 5 fingers, first 5 keys, going up and going down. So they start playing, right? They play. And while they play, I do this with my hand. I'm trying to move them, and of course I move them because they don't have constant energy flow between the fingers, between the beats. I don't apply too much force, but just a slight push, and it's enough for them to be derailed. And that should not happen. Then I ask them to do the same thing to me, and but again, applying a slight push. We're not enforcing, we're not violating our playing. So then I play, and then they try to move my hand. They can I will resist. It may be a little bit harder for me if they start pushing stronger, and usually they do, but they won't, my hand will not be derailed. And then I explain why, and they already feel my hand. That's the most important thing. They already feel my energy by doing this slight push that I did before to them. And exactly because I'm keeping this constant energy flow with my hands, and in between rests, and in between changing when they start making finger turns, in between beats, I'm not resting. The music always exists inside our hands from the beginning, even with that ghost bar, until the end of a piece. So then I ask them to do the same thing, to apply as much energy as they think they should apply, so that if I slightly push them, I won't take their hands off the piano keyboard. Again, I warn them, because they're kids. I like to show the 2 extremes and for them to find the middle. Not too, like as if a ghost is playing, like as if I'm barely touching and barely using my fingers, no strength at all. But then again, not too strong, because then my hand becomes stiff. There is no energy flowing here, we just stopped everything. But enough somewhere in between, so that when they play, and it doesn't matter if it's going to be piano or a forte, it's going to be hard for me to derail them. There's going to be resistance. Not force, not violence, but resistance. Because there is energy, and it flows constantly inside their hand. Let's play this first phrase without the constant energy flow. And also, you see, my hand doesn't have an appropriate movement of my wrists. I'm just pressing the keys without caring how the music, how the beats, how the rhythm lives from one beat to the other. And one beat can have 4 sixteenths inside it, if I count it in sixteenths. Like one organism has so many cells inside of it to exist. And now I'm going to play it with constant energy flow. It's harder than for me to move it. Then, of course, you can stop pushing them and just let them play and listen to the sound that they're producing while having this constant energy flow. And the same thing applies inside our counting and the feeling of the rhythm and the beats. We should also be careful of and be mindful of how we are going from one bar to the other, from this, the second beat, to the first of the next bar. And also in a more macroscopic glance, the first phrase finishes here, right? We want to learn, let's say, the first phrase. I always give them the next bar of the next phrase to play because I want them to unite to make this bridge. And then I stop them. So that when we start uniting the first and the second phrase, they already have this bridge. It is known to them. So what do I mean with the counting and the feeling of the rhythm to have constant energy flow? Without constant energy flow. 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 1, and 2, and 1, and 2, and 1, and it's as if I'm cutting each beat with scissors. With constant energy flow, our counting is going to sound like this. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Even here that I only have a half, it's not like I played it and I don't care. This half lasts for this whole bar, which can be 2 quarters, 4/8, or 8/16. It has to exist throughout all of the duration of the bar, and also from this last, whatever you want to call or whatever you count this bit, until the next bar. So also with our counting, constant energy flow, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and not 1 and 2 and 1, or with our hands without that energy flow.